Daylen Lile's rookie season was not just a fluke. In fact, he could be even better as we enter the year of 2026.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And I'm your host, Ryan Clary. I am part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where is your team every single day. And later on in today's program, we'll have a discussion starting the Nationals kind of moving forward. Is it going to be fact or fiction? I've got a couple of different prompts for you guys, including Dylan Crews. So stay tuned for that conversation later on in the program today. But we start off discussing Daylen Lile. I'm going to tell you why his rookie season, of which he finished top 5 in the NL Rookie of the Year voting, was not just a fluke. In fact, this guy is real, and he could be even better in the year of 2026. But today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. And download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Daylen Lile was the biggest surprise for the Nationals in 2025, but the results and just everything that he did should not be something I think a lot of Nationals fans just push to the side. I think that Daylen Lile is absolutely a building block for this team moving forward. And if you're not a Nationals fan out there tuning in, let me tell you about the best player that you probably have not heard of, and that is the Nationals right fielder, 23-year-old Daylen Lile. So for the season, Daylen Lile was really good, and obviously we covered the second half where he batted north of 300. He had an OPS north of 900, and he was seriously the best Nationals player in the second half of this season. And in fact, one of the better hitters across the National League in the second half of the year. Like, he was phenomenal. And this was after the Nationals brought him up early on in the season, sent him back down to AAA, and they brought him back up. And of course, that is when Daylen Lile, we all kind of saw the best product of him in that second half. And I think the numbers just speak alone for what this guy can do. And I think that this is kind of a base for what a lot of people should expect of him moving forward. I love the way that Daylen Lile not only had his approach set up for his first full season, but also the way that he crushed breaking ball pitches. I think a lot of people may just look past the fact that not only was this guy hitting for power off fastballs, but he was also hitting the breaking speed pitches. In this year, I was looking at his numbers in 2025 and just kind of the different results of breaking pitches and what was his numbers against off-speed pitches. And what I saw from his breaking pitches, he had a 490 slug in 2025 against breaking pitches. Off-speed was at a 391, and a fastball was at a 549. But a 490 slug off that, and on top of that, 28 strikeouts. He did only have 1 home run, but he had 5 triples and 6 doubles off of those breaking pitches. We have talked about younger players coming up into the major leagues really struggling at first in that department. In fact, we have one of those right here with Dylan Crews. Dylan Crews could not handle the breaking pitches. He was hitting the fastball, and that was really it. You did not really see Dylan Crews crush off speed or breaking pitches, but we did see that from Daylen Lile. And is it from maybe guys not really having a full scouting report on him? Is it the fact that Daylen Lile maybe didn't see as many breaking pitches as Dylan Crews? I don't believe so. I think that Daylen Lile is just that good of a hitter. And if we remember him coming up through the ranks with the Nationals, this was kind of the guy that I think a lot of people slept on, including myself. When Daylen Lile was first drafted, the dream of him was to be a contact hitter that could also have some power. This was going to be someone who could probably be a gap-to-gap hitter, kind of similar profile to Dylan Crews, except not the same player, but that's kind of the hitter profile that I think a lot of people expected. Someone who had gap-to-gap kind of power there, but ultimately was going to be a contact guy and not really be this massive upside power hitter who's going to hit 30-plus home runs in a single season. Daylen Lile lived up to that this year. And where he could get better is, well, not really that much. He's going to get better. And in fact, you're going to see him improve, because the one thing that I would really like to see from Daylen Lile is be more selective. When you have these contact hitters, think of like a Luis Garcia Jr., for example. Luis Garcia Jr. at times is a very undisciplined hitter. I don't think that Daylen Lile is an undisciplined hitter. He saw the pitches, obviously, and he knew which ones that he was going to swing at, and he was pretty selective. But I would like to I'd like to see him be even more selective moving forward. The walk rate is the only thing of concern that you could really look at in his batter profile and say, I'd like to see him improve in that department. His walk rate was in the 22nd percentile, according to Baseball Savant. Nothing too impressive. His strikeout percentage was up in the 82nd percentile. And that's kind of what you see with a lot of contact hitters. He's not going to strike out too much, but also you'd like to see guys be a little more selective. And I think that is the department where Daylen Lile will improve the most as we enter 2026 here. And in fact, that is going to take him from the very good hitter department to the elite department, because he has got some elite metrics on this. 100th percentile expected batting average, best in baseball. Expected slugging was in the 67th percentile. Very good for a rookie hitter. His his launch angle sweet spots percentage was in the 100th percentile. Again, one of the best in all of baseball. This is someone who has elite metrics backing the elite numbers, having an 845 OPS in his first full season up in the majors. Like, this is someone that the Nationals are not just going to say, oh, he had a good year, we're going to move off him. No, this is one of our building blocks. We've talked about James Wood. He's a building block. Dylan Cruz, he will be one. But Daylen Lile is probably second on that list behind James Wood, even ahead of Dylan Cruz at this point. Dylan Cruz may have the higher ceiling, and I'm not trying to pin those two together, because I think they're all three going to be huge parts of this Nationals team moving forward. But the more impressive player in 2025 was by far Daylen Lile. And even then, in the second half, it was not even close who the better hitter was between James Wood and Daylen Lile. Daylen Lile, statistically speaking, had an incredible second half season, not just for rookie standards, not just for the national standards, but baseball standards. This was an elite hitter, someone who was having a triple nearly every single week, on top of the major league leaderboards for triples in the second half of the major league season. This is someone that the Nationals are not just going to say, oh, he had a good rookie year, and let's kind of see him take a step back in the second half. No, this is someone who rose to the occasion, who had the big hits, who had the big time moments, who did improve a little bit defensively, but would like to see him be a little better in right field moving forward. And I think he will be, by the way. This is someone that the Nationals are going to build around. He is not someone that is going to be trade bait. He's not someone who's just going to be just that one-year wonder that we never really think of down the line. This is someone who I think that Paul Toboni and Blake Butera and this staff will actually build up and make him even better in 2026 and beyond. This is a middle-of-the-order bat who will hit 20 home runs. He'll have a 2020 season easily at some point in his career. And I do think that right now, with where things stand, the Washington Nationals have themselves a foundational piece with Daylen Lile, and not a lot of people expected that. They expected him to be good, but not this good at this early. And I think that the Nationals will be in a position to make him even better as we kind of profound our player development staff up in the major leagues. So Daylen Lile, incredible rookie season. Glad to see him back in DC, and you'll see him build up to be a really good player for the Nationals moving forward. But thank you for making Locked On Nats your first listen. Let's get into this myth or fact or fiction or whatever you want to call it. Myth or fact or fiction, Nationals edition. I've got a couple of different prompts that I want to run by you guys. We'll talk about that after this. The NFL Sundays move fast, and one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds on every drive, every momentum swing, and every highlight moment. Live betting is best fit when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. And of course, with live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Last night, I placed a bet on the Broncos to win in overtime against the Commanders. It was at plus money there for a little bit, and I got our friends at FanDuel to make those odds nice and tight for those Commanders. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. We are back here on Locked On Nationals, and we are getting into a fact or fiction segment for the 2026 Nationals and beyond the 2026 Washington Nationals. So, of course, got a couple of different prompts here that we'll dissect and really get into of whether or not this will be a fact or if it will be fiction. So, the first one right now I do want to tackle is, is the rebuild ahead of schedule, or even is it on schedule? Well, the rebuild is not ahead of schedule, so that is fiction. I think that the Nationals going into 2025, the message was clear from Mike Rizzo, from Davey Martinez. It was not from the fan base. It was not from ownership. It was from Davey and Mike Rizzo. They said that this team was ready to win. In fact, they were not. They took a step back. Their core guys like Dylan Cruz got injured. James Wood was excellent, but CJ Abrams, he was also good. Luis Garcia Jr. took steps back. Keibert Ruiz took steps back. Jake Irvin took steps back. This team as a whole took a step back. The bullpen was a disaster. And this was a team that, again, people were ready to see them win. And a lot of people, not just here in town, but a lot of people thought they would be a lot better. They were not. They regressed, they had injuries, and unfortunately, this house of cards came tumbling down. That was fiction. That was a myth. This is a team that unfortunately right now is not ahead of schedule. In fact, it's not even really on schedule. It is operating under a whole new clock under Paul Toboni, so it's not on Toboni or Butera or anyone else outside of Davey Martinez and Mike Rizzo, in my opinion. Of course, there are other cards in play here, but those were kind of the two guys who, in my opinion, probably shouldn't have been parading around the fact that that was a team ready to win. They probably shouldn't have been saying that. It was unprovoked, and really no one really expected the Nationals to be winners last season. Yet, when you have your GM and your manager saying, we're going to be winners and we're going to win, you probably should not have said that unprovoked there. But I do not think that this rebuild is on schedule anymore. If I were to predict a schedule, like I would have thought that the Nationals would be good by 2026. I don't see that being the case. I still believe the Nationals have a lot of holes. You've got a whole new potential starting rotation this season. You're going to have a new bullpen. You're going to have some new hitters. Maybe you make a few trades. Maybe you see a couple prospects break out this season, kind of change the trajectory of this team. But as of right now, this is a rebuild that is technically behind schedule, and I don't see them really being a contender in 2026, and I don't really see this team kind of inching closer to 80, 85 wins in 2026, and maybe even 2027 for that matter. So as of right now, it's not ahead of schedule. That is fiction. Fact or fiction, James Wood is a future MVP candidate. Fact. James Wood is definitely an MVP candidate down the road. Listen, there are not many people who have the talent that James Wood has. We saw him improve drastically defensively this season that, in my opinion, a lot of people aren't really talking enough about. Like, he was legit a very good left fielder out there. Like, covered range, good arm, made some really big plays down the stretch. I think back to the ninth inning against the Miami Marlins later on in the season in September, where he had that incredible throw to throw someone out to really save the ball game for the Nationals there. That is something that you would have never seen back in 2024 with James Wood in left field. You saw him improve there. And not only that, this is someone who has 40 home run to 50 home run potential, and maybe even more someday down the road. He seriously has 70 grade raw power. Like, this is someone who has power for obviously to the opposite field. He's going to develop some pull power eventually here as well. And when he crushes a baseball, I mean, it goes. It is different. When people say that it sounds different off the bat, when it comes to like Mike Trout in his prime and Aaron Judge right now, and guys like Ronald Acuna Jr., James Wood is in that kind of category with them. It sounds different. Like, he has raw power that I think a lot of people just kind of take for granted and just kind of say, oh, like, that's nice, but let's see him do it in big time situations or whatever it is, whatever the recent knock is on James Wood. Like, no, this is someone that I think the Nationals will absolutely have in the MVP conversation someday. And I think that this is someone who will be in the MVP conversation and who might even win ones down the road. He's that good of a player. And I think the Nationals have definitely got themselves a franchise player that you will absolutely be building around moving forward. So yes, James Wood being an MVP candidate down the road, that is an absolute fact for me. Third, Paul Toboni has a clear vision for this team. Fact. This is someone, when he first came in, he made it very clear. He wanted to have a player development monster and the team that everyone envies around baseball. I think that every step of the way through this offseason has really proved what he has wanted with this team. He has made it very clear. Player development is at the first thing that he wants to tackle. And if you're a Nationals fan out there, deep in the weeds, you know where this team has lacked, and that is player development. I think that the Nationals have said it they have obviously had a player development issue for years, but the fact is that you have someone who understands the issue at hand here, who has a background in player development, and has now taken the steps to get better in that department. I feel as if that the vision is so clear for what Paul Toboni wants. This is not going to be a team that is bringing in Dave Dombrowski in the offseason to go out there and acquire Bryce Harper and to acquire big-time free agents like Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos and all those different things. This is someone who understands the assignment at hand. They need to start developing talent, because when you pick in the top of the draft and you really have no one to show for it at this point, you kind of got to look in yourself and say, well, where are we wrong and where are we going wrong? Dylan Cruz, for instance, I think that he had a pretty poor rookie season overall, and obviously had some injuries there with the oblique injury that sidelined him for a couple of months. I think that if you're the Nationals, though, you look at someone like Dylan Cruz and you're like, how do you not get more out of someone like him with his talent and the things that he can do? He's a great defensive outfielder. He puts the ball in play. He's got some power. He's really good at basically everything that you want a baseball player to be good at. Yet, they didn't really get the most out of him this season. They didn't really get the most out of him down in the minors. I don't think that's a Dylan Cruz problem. I think that's a Washington Nationals problem. And I think that Paul Toboni, he's made the hires of player development this and hiring a new amateur scouting coordinator over this past week and hiring Blake Butera as your manager who has a player development background, bringing in Devin Pearson from the Boston Red Sox who ran player development alongside Paul Toboni. Blake Butera, Devin Pearson, Justin Horowitz coming from a player development background with the Pirates, and of course Toboni as well. This is a team that understands their weakness, and they are finally doing something to address it moving forward. So yes, I do think Toboni has a very clear vision. I think it's very clear to all Nationals fans out there that this is a team that is going to be, number one, really good in the player development department, but also number two, they've got a clear vision for what they want, at least for now. And I think a lot of people can be behind that. But our next prompt is going to be this: MacKenzie Gore will generate a sizable return via trade. We'll tackle that after this. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part, and that is why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. And with Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets with the moment they hit the app. Then it puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app and layout makes it so simple to scroll through the matchups and compare seat views. When I go to games, I open up that Game Time app as I walk up. In just a few taps, I have my seats in hand, and of course I'm ready to go in to see that World Cup match. And of course, alerts for teams and matches make it even easier to grab tickets for the moment that they drop instead of missing out. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. That is Game Time. And we are back here with Locked On Nationals, and we are doing a fact or fiction prompt. And yes, on today's show, we have been tackling all sorts of different things, but the big offseason story is MacKenzie Gore for the Washington Nationals. So we get into a fact or fiction. MacKenzie Gore will generate a sizable return via trade, and I'm going to say fact. I think MacKenzie Gore, and the way that the starting pitching market has gone this season, you will see a pretty good return for MacKenzie Gore. Just kind of seeing what's going around baseball at this point. The Sonny Gray trade, first and foremost, that generates you two top prospects from the Red Sox, a top 5 prospect in their system for just 1 year of Sonny Gray, with I believe a mutual option in 2027. But 1 year of Sonny Gray, who had not great numbers this past year with the Cardinals, and the Red Sox gave up a good amount for him. So number one, that bodes well. Number two, as we get more and deeper into this offseason, a Tarek Skubal trade from the Tigers seems way more unlikely. And Joe Ryan with the Minnesota Twins, we don't really know where that stands right now. I think what baseball insiders do know and baseball executives do know is that MacKenzie Gore will be traded. And I think with everything happening right now, this is a perfect storm for the Nationals. I think that with the starting pitching market being really hot, you see Dylan Cease just get a 7-year, $210 million deal. It's a pretty insane deal for someone coming off a down year and a down year and a half, I might add, with the Padres. But I do think with where the Nationals are today, you have to see kind of what you can get for Gore. This is not going to be a team that's just going to take the first deal on the table for MacKenzie Gore. This is a team that is going to be very patient. And in fact, I'm not really expecting a MacKenzie Gore trade within this next week or two. This is going to be something that will probably take the next month. And you'll probably see it sometime at the winter trade deadline or at the winter meeting for the Nationals and Major League Baseball moving forward. And I do think that there is probably some groundwork already with teams out there. Like we've talked about the Cubs, the Mariners potentially being in on him, maybe the Yankees, like your usual players for guys trying to make their starting staff better. But I think that with the way that this market has been, a MacKenzie Gore trade return is going to be greater than what I think we initially thought of. Because I went on the record saying about 2-3 weeks ago, hey, this is not going to be some generational return. I still don't believe it will be this massive return that's going to be second to the Juan Soto return back in the day. It's not going to be that big, but it is going to be a really good return. And the way that this pitching market has gone for teams that are middle tier who may spend on Michael King, who may go out there and make some flashy moves, this is kind of boding well for the Nationals because the pitching market is, number one, pretty slow right now. And number two, it's getting really expensive. So if you have someone like MacKenzie Gore who has 2 years left of control, next season in 2027, we don't really know what's going to happen, especially if they tender contracts. We don't know what's going to happen in 2027. But in 2026, you've got someone pretty cheap. He's been a reliable option. He's made 30-plus starts each of the past few seasons, and he's been a healthy guy. That is going to be valuable for a team trying to trade for him. And of course, the Nationals, they're going to see every good thing possible from that trade. So I do think it will be a pretty sizable return. It will be more than what I thought initially earlier on this offseason. Although, again, it's not going to be a Juan Soto level return. It will be very good. It'll be better than what you probably thought at this point with the way that the starting pitching market has gone. But also, tempt the expectations. It will not be this massive 5 prospect haul. If it will be, then color me shocked and give Paul Toboni a World Series ring already. That's what I'll say on that. So thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen. Let me know what you guys think about the fact or fiction prompt. We'll have much more on this as we go on into this week. But until then, have a good one. Go Nats.